Okay, here's part 2 of my little political screed on Proposition 8. Now, as I said in the first one, there are three main arguments that the pro-Prop 8 people use. The religious freedom, freedom of speech argument, the slippery slope argument, and the what about the children argument. I addressed the freedom of speech and religion in the first part, so I'll address the slippery slope at this time, and we'll see if I can get in the what about the children argument in a bit. The slippery slope argument goes as follows. If we allow homosexual couples to get married, don't we have to allow bestial marriages? Don't we have to allow pedophilic marriages? Don't we have to allow polygamous marriages? Don't we have to allow incestuous marriages? Well, no. First, let's go with the bestial marriage one. This one is the most facetious and ridiculous. A marriage is a contract. In other words, there must be two consenting individuals who are able to make legal intent. Now, I love dogs. I especially love cats. I'm a cat person, as you can tell from the first video. I'm not going to marry one of them. Just not my thing. But why shouldn't I stop somebody who does? Well, because the cat or the dog or the cow or the chick or the ducks or the geese that scurry from the Surrey don't have the legal ability to say yes or no. They can't consent. Marriage is between two consenting adults. Adult part will come in momentarily. In other words, a dog cannot sign its name. A dog cannot say I do. A dog cannot swear before a justice of the peace or notary public or anyone. It just can't happen. So there can be no legal marriage there, okay? Further, in California and in most states of the Union, we have age of consent laws that at a minimum are 18 years of age. Most animals don't make it to the 18 years. If they do, the wedding night might kill them. So if you're having sexual relations with your underage minor dog, cat, chick, duck, geese, whatever, you're a rapist. Not only because the animal can't consent, but because it's underage. So let's let that straw man, fake, phony argument go. Okay? The second one, pedophilic marriage. Well, again, let's refer to age of consent. Oh, these poor children, they're going to be raped by the homosexuals. That's what the argument comes down to. Those dirty fags are just waiting to get their hands on our kids. Wow. No, we're not. First of all, people get this thing about reproduction. Well, the whole purpose of marriage is reproduction. Well, for one thing, I came from a heterosexual relationship. Okay? As a matter of fact, I think almost every gay person I've ever met came from a heterosexual relationship. Imagine that. We don't go around creating each other. You people create us. Oh, it's a choice. Well, I chose when I was 5 years old then. I knew at that time I was different. Okay? Please, enough with this underage pedophilic stuff. A child cannot consent to be married unless you're a 14-year-old from North Carolina who gets whose mother sells her for a couple $100 and a carton of cigarettes to a man who runs her to the state of Utah to get married. This happened in 2004. Huge scandal. Oops. That's a loophole in our law. We better hurry up and close it. Yeah, that is one that needed to be closed. There should be a national minimum age of consent of 18 years. Now, we have that financially. An 18-year-old can go out and buy a car, but a 17-year-old can't. A 17-year-old needs their parent to come co-sign with them. As a matter of fact, I don't even think they can co-sign. I think the parent has to buy the car and allow the 17-year-old to use it. Why? Because we don't feel that 17, 16, 15, 14 is old enough and mature enough to be able to form the mental connections between buying something and paying for it. And if we're not going to let them buy a car, we sure as hell shouldn't be allowing them to get married. Okay? And for the most part, we don't. So it's a ridiculous argument. It's a straw man. Again, look at this. Look at this. If we allow them to do that, we have to allow these people to do that. No, we don't. I'm next going to address incestuous marriage. Now, here my argument is a little different. Here we have a problem. You see, if you look at past cultures which have allowed just even people who were cousins to get married, for an example, the royal dynasties of Europe, you have tremendous problems with the offspring. Why? Genetic inbreeding. The Habsburg jaw, ever hear of that? In some cases, the jaws on these people were 5 inches. Makes Jay Leno look like a shrimp, doesn't it? They couldn't chew. They had poor nutrition. There were weaknesses in their teeth. Another very famous example is the Tsarevich Alexis of Russia, the son of the last Tsar, Nicholas II. His hemophilia was one of the reasons the family pulled itself away. They didn't want anyone knowing about it. It was considered shameful. A genetic defect that they didn't want anyone knowing about led to the fall of the Romanov dynasty. So that's one of the reasons we don't allow cousins to get married. Now, brothers, sisters, fathers, daughters, mothers, sons, well, there have been cultures which have allowed that. Most famously, the pharaonic dynasties of Egypt. One of the most famous members, Cleopatra VII, the Cleopatra of movies and plays, was married. Her first husband was her younger brother, Ptolemy the 13th or 14th. I think he was the 13th. Their father was Ptolemy Auletes, the flute player. I think he was the 12th. Anyway, that was her first husband. If you go back to the most famous pharaoh of all, Tutankhamun, his father was Akhenaten, who was married to the famous Nefertiti. Look at them. Look at what inbreeding had done to that royal family. Not only the little bit of insanity that seemed to be one of the driving factors of Akhenaten, but the physical deformities of the family itself. Tutankhamun had no surviving children. You know why that is? Because he was married to his own half-sister. Therefore, we have a genetic reason to not allow brothers to marry sisters, mothers to marry sons, fathers to marry daughters. We can actually forbid that. And if we're not going to allow male-female couplings that way, we can say, no sisters and sisters, no brothers and brothers. We can really do that because there is such a chance of horrendous things happening on the one side. Equality of the law means we can't allow it on the other side. Okay? The last part I'm going to address is polygamous marriage. Now, for most of our civilized world, polygamous marriage has been the norm for men. A man would have as many wives as he could get his hands on. Some cultures still allow that, especially among the well-to-do, the wealthy, and the ruling families. There will not be just the 4 wives as supposedly allowed in the Quran. I have not read the Quran, so I can't say. But that is what I've always heard. I could be wrong in that. I apologize if I am. But polygamous marriage is the norm in much of the world. Okay? Here in the United States, however, polygamous marriage is almost entirely practiced by cults that are offshoots of the LDS Church, the Mormons. These churches basically use their idea of their religion to control the members of their cult. And cult is the only word for it. They control the finances. They tell you who you can marry, when you can marry. Okay? And because the proportion of males and females are roughly the same, many younger males are cut out. 12-year-old wears short-sleeve shirts. Oh, it's a sin against the prophet, seer, and revelator. Very important term that they share with the LDS Church. Out on the street the boy goes. Then you've got one man, and he's supporting 7 wives and 26 kids. He can't afford it. Where does he turn? The government for welfare. Interesting how these people believe in self-sufficiency, except when it comes to supplying their own family with their needs. Then it's like, well, let's grab what we can. Federal government, stay out of my life, except for giving me the stuff that I need to keep my families going. Another thing that happens, a grown man may have 3 or 4 wives, be in the church, and then he just says the wrong thing at the wrong time, and the head of the church, the prophet, seer, and revelator, takes him and throws him out of the church. He loses his home. He loses whatever business he has. Why? He never owned them. They were the property of the church. No private ownership. Very socialist, isn't it? His wives, who were sealed to him before God, are now stripped of that marriage and given to somebody else. His children are no longer his children. Biology has nothing to do with it. It's whatever the prophet Seer Revelator says. So yes, polygamy is a very destructive institution when it's practiced by individuals of religious cults. So yes, we can say no to multiple marriages. Pardon me, polygamous marriages. Notice how they never talk about polyandrous marriages, more than one husband per woman. Strange that. I'll address the last of my arguments in my next videotape, part 3. Take care.